computer specialists like us are dedicated to crippling targeted organizations. You may be able to stop one, but the few become the many.
News just into our newsroom tonight.
We have new information on one of the largest cyber attacks to ever hit the United States.
Officials say this could be the biggest cyber attack in history.
Investigation is underway in the UK.
80 million customers' most sensitive information is now exposed.
In most of these attacks, you just get bombarded.
Computer hackers foiled security measures to steal 83 million customer names.
This could turn out to be the biggest hack in history. Home Depot now
40 million credit and debit cards.
Investigators are still trying to figure out exactly how the hackers got into their system.
And the size and scope of the cyber attack is unprecedented.
Hackers attacked the Polish Airlines computer system over the weekend, grounding
We live in an incredibly exciting time. The devices that we have access to today, the phones, you said 25 billion connected devices. You think about 6 billion of that is actually just your smartphones by 2020. Smartphones, 6 billion. There's only 7 billion people in the world. So amazing. Everybody's gonna be walking around with a device that gives them instant access to information. The number of printers, the number of PCs, the number of tablets, the number of cars, the number of health devices, the number of scales, the number of point-of-sale devices, the number of HVAC systems, the number of all these internet-connected devices gets us to a place where we can work, have access to information anytime, anywhere. So it's an incredible place to live, right? It's an incredible time to be alive. The data on the right is also a very interesting phenomenon. It's something that we don't talk about in the industry very much. It's the increase of cybersecurity, cyber risk. There's two actually big things in the US that drive disclosure of information. One is Freedom of Information Act, which really requires every government agency in the US actually disclose how they use information and the access who has access to that information. That means they also have to disclose all of the data breaches. That's one. The second one is Cybersecurity Information Act for consumer companies that actually have data, personal data, on their customers. So the anxiety level, I want you guys to realize, especially for the channel partners in the audience, of government agencies, financial services, healthcare, insurance, across the globe, they have an anxiety level around cybersecurity. That's an opportunity for us as an industry to step up and really fill that need, okay? So, as I said, people don't go after kind of the obvious firewall attack, the front door. They go through the back door. And so you think about a printer is very similar to a PC. It's similar in many, many ways. On the hardware side, it's got a processor. A PC has a processor. Printer has a processor. It has memory. It has mass storage device. It has a screen. It's got keyboards on our printers. And so these things behave, they're architecturally very similar to a PC. They also have software. They run an operating system. They actually load executable code, which means they can initiate communication as well as receive communication. And they have libraries. And so these devices look like a PC from a hardware perspective. They act like a PC from a software perspective. And they have a superset of communication protocols that a PC actually doesn't have because they communicate to a wide variety of devices. They're peripheral devices, right? That's where we started. And so the point here is that when you think about vulnerability, printer is a great place to go because of all these protocols and the fact that we're so prevalent across many, many different industries. It's a connectivity device.
We did a study about the insecurity of network-connected printers. So from my viewpoint, and I want to set this up a little bit before I give you the research material, I use a lot of research in my daily job because statistics don't lie. It's our way of being able to show our leadership that we're making good investments. So I use the Ponemon Institute, not just because I'm a fellow there. I also use Gartner, Forrester, and others so that I can prove to my leadership that the investments we're making are adding security where we need to have security. So at least once a year, as a CISO, especially in highly regulated institutions, we're audited. And those audits come back with findings. I don't think there's been a single year in at least the last 5 years that printers have not come up as a vulnerability on our audit reports. Previously, though, they were at a low category, meaning they were a low risk. They were viewed as a low risk to the infrastructure. What's happened over the last few years is printers have taken a different seat, largely because we've done a great job of making our business enabled for our employees, meaning we've given them bring your own device. We've given them an opportunity to work from home. Telework helps people when they're commuting. But what we've done is we've also added an exposure of risk to the company now that we haven't had before. So the interconnectedness of our devices, from our smartphones to our printers to those business enablement tools that we're providing, unfortunately, are also introducing risk. So it's very important for us to think about all of the Internet of Things that we're creating when we're looking at what the risk is to our companies. So let's go through a little bit more about the research. 2,000 IT professionals were surveyed. The survey was actually done from July to August. The high level, though, is printer security is an overlooked security risk. I have a lot of friends that are in the audit field, and when I ask them, what do you really think about this? Is this really a problem? Do you think of it as a problem? A couple of them said to me, you know, I got bigger fish to fry than printer vulnerabilities. But now that you say that, maybe I better take a better look at it. One of them actually called me a few days later and said, yeah, it came up on a vulnerability report. The company had accepted the risk. We're going to relook at that now. So it's becoming a problem. The statistics actually show that 44% have policies, 47% do not, which is telling me that it's an overlooked area. If you're using a good framework, so let's say you're using BS standards or ISO standards, that actually your control framework should help. And I think what's happening is we're not writing good policies, therefore we're missing an entire area here. Organizations openly admitted that they're not succeeding at governing the use and the security of printers today. And why would that be? Because people don't think of a printer of being a nefarious actor in a network. But it's actually become just like a PC. They're smart, they're intuitive, they think, they store, they forward, they have brains like a computer does. The statistics again prove integrated printer access and use within a network intelligence SIEM, which is a security incident and events management solution. That's where we take all the log files from our devices, we look at them and say, is there something funny going on in the network that we need to be concerned about? 77% are not paying attention to it. And I think that's key and that's notable. The other thing is, not only do we not establish policies, but we don't have a mechanism to enforce them, which is another problem. Companies will create policies, and oftentimes you can't enforce them. So we have another gap. And then encrypting data in motion is a problem. So when we talk about encryption on a network, we have a false sense of security, thinking that the data that comes from my PC and goes to another PC is secured because we're in this trusted enterprise. But yet we've opened doors in several places in our networks to allow business enablement, remote access. I go back to the bring your own device, make everybody happy because they want to be productive. But what we in fact have done has created untrust in our trusted networks. The other question that we surveyed was, Has a data breach involving a network-connected printer likely occurred? I'm going to be honest with you. Most of the time, when we have an incident that causes an outage on our networks, we're very quick to get that network back up. And why is that? Largely because our customer base is complaining that they don't have access. I want to have access, I need to have access, I want data on demand. We're a world of data on demand. We want it now, we want it fast, we want it secure. So when we asked this question, the statistics were they did not shock me. I actually thought they'd be much higher. And I think the reason they're not is because we're not privy to all the forensics reports that come after a data breach. In other words, we know the OPM data breach in the United States, the Office of Personnel Management, happened because of a stolen credential. But we don't know how that credential was stolen. Was it stolen digitally? Did someone lose a piece of paper with their login and their ID? Did someone shoulder surf them, or what we call visually hacking? We don't know. You don't get the forensics report, so we don't know how bad this really could be. However, the numbers will show you that people believe that PCs are much more dangerous than printers. But yet we know that printers are as smart as our PCs. We're not making a correlation here, I don't think. Most respondents predicted an increase of printer-related data breaches in the next 12 months. One of the reasons why I think this became very poignant is because we're taking a different look at our third parties, what people are in our network, contractors, customers, partners. We're outsourcing. As you do that, you start to open the perimeter of your network. The other key area that we're looking at as in the security area is the insider threat. And the insider threat is another big problem area. Edward Snowden is a good example of the insider threat. I have legitimate credentials to be in this network, but yet I'm using it to do things I shouldn't be. So the results of that, again, show now that as we start to raise awareness to this problem, people believe that it will become a bigger problem in the next 12 months. And I believe that the reason is, A, we're getting more awareness around it, but B, we're allowing more connectivity from the Internet of Things so that our customers and our employees can be happier and more productive. It really comes down to productivity. So why do we think that risk is going to increase? The use of mobile technologies and the increase of malware infections, not only on the corporate domain, but also in our mobile devices. Mobile devices are now making up a greater percentage than ever of the attacks in our networks today. And then, of course, we have that increase of remote workers, which is going to be very problematic for companies. We've got a lot of companies that are getting rid of the brick and mortar, getting rid of the buildings, wanting to make people more productive, not sitting in traffic. I don't know how traffic is in the area that you live. I live in Washington, D.C. A good day, you can make it from where I live about 35 miles out of the district. I don't know what that relates to in kilometers, I apologize. I failed new math. But it can take me, when it's a good day, on a weekend, I leave early, it takes me about 30 minutes. I now sit in traffic. If I have to go during business hours, it can take me 2 hours, and that's if nobody's crashed into somebody. And there's only a few arteries into the district. I want to work from home. I want my employees to work from home because they're more productive. The time they spend sitting in the car is time that could be spent analyzing security anomalies. And so this mobile workforce is going to pick up. Add to that the fact that I want them to be able to be productive. So there's nothing more frustrating than leaving a print job in the office. Better yet, you've got a computer, you're at home, you're connected through your virtual private network, you do a print job and realize that you're printing in an office that no one's sitting in. which could be sitting in an open environment, which could allow your employees an opportunity that may not have been presented to them if you happen to hit the send button, which I may have done once in my life, of an HR file that had information about compensation, which meant, and it was a Saturday, but I sent to the wrong printer. I hit the print button not thinking. I had to drive 35 miles into the office to collect that on a Saturday because I didn't want it sitting on the printer when my team came in the morning. Critical success factors for printer and document security for the future. When we talked to when we polled, we gave them a set of questions and asked them to rank. And here's where we ended up. Technologies that help pinpoint those high-risk printers, meaning places where you're printing information that's highly sensitive. Usually it's the top floor of a building where your executives are, where they're printing financial data, pre-release information from your core financials at the end of quarter. So that's pretty important. Monitoring the devices and the users. Who's using the device? What's normal behavior? One of the things we look at in security is what's normal behavior? If Patricia Titus comes in the office every day from 8 to 5 and she usually accesses this information, prints this much stuff, and then day after tomorrow I come in and start printing reams and reams of documents out because hopefully someone's disabled the USB ports, it could be a sign that I'm actually collecting information to take to a new job. I want to be able to monitor normal activity of my high-risk employees, actually of all my employees. Technologies that encrypt sensitive information. When we talk about encryption end-to-end, it needs to be within your corporate environment as well. It can't just be when I leave the building, my devices. Technologies that actually restrict access to documents. So if I happen to have somehow got into a file share or to a set of documents I shouldn't be in, I want to be able to restrict the ability for that person based on their credential from printing. And then probably the biggest part, but everybody gets bored, is awareness training. It's so critical to start raising awareness to this problem. So that's it for me, and I just really want to thank you for the time.
Unsecured printers can put your network at risk. HP's industry-leading security features protect, detect, and recover automatically. Runtime intrusion detection continually monitors device memory. If there's an attack, the device automatically reboots. HP SureStart validates the integrity of the BIOS code. If compromised, the device recovers with a safe golden copy of the BIOS. Whitelisting confirms the authenticity of the firmware code. Lastly, HP Jet Advantage Security Manager checks and fixes any affected device security settings. Get the latest in self-healing security features, only from HP.
Okay, what we're looking at here is actually a snapshot of a live map of Norse Corp. And this is basically a company that has set up honeypots throughout the world. What honeypots are, they are actually servers that have been set up to attract hackers and monitor attacks. And as you can see from here, you can see these attacks going across the world. The #1 country that's getting the most attacks, according to this particular snapshot in time, is the United States. #1, about 5,800 attacks occurred during a 45-minute period. And what's critical about this is to show that these attacks can happen. They're happening daily. They're happening every minute. So we need to be diligent about ensuring that we protect against these type of attacks. And the next slide shows the type of attacks that are occurring, what's being used to attack these devices. It's HTTP, it's Telnet as shown in the slide, it's FTP. These are insecure protocols that leave your devices at risk. And what we want to do is ensure that those protocols are either turned off or disabled on devices. And that relates directly to what I'm going to talk about. In this next slide, This talks about the fact that we invest in securing our endpoints. So PCs and servers, we invest in those, ensure we've got policies set up to protect those devices. With printers, they're typically left unattended and not known that, gee, these devices are just at risk. What can happen? They typically can be attacked from either internally or externally, depending on where that printer is set up. Now, internal attacks, a lot of customers assume, and I get asked this question a lot, isn't my internal network secured? If it's behind the firewall, it should be fine, right? Well, that's no longer the case. With the sophistication of the hackers, with phishing attacks, emails that are sent to any of your employees, those networks can be compromised. In fact, you cannot assume that your network is secure. It is a hostile environment. So what can you do? You need to ensure that your printer is secured, and I'm going to touch on ways that you can do that with our HP printers. This slide shows a couple of industry firsts that we came out with around security. I'm not going to go through all of these, but it's to highlight that security is important to HP, and we've been focused on ensuring that our printing devices are as secure as possible. And so I'll highlight some of the first. In 2005, we came out with UPD for secure encrypted prints, end-to-end encryption for your printing jobs to ensure that even if they go across proxies or are kept on a print server, those jobs are secured from end to end. We were the first to publish the United States NIST, National Information Security Checklist, and that came out in 2005. It actually walks the customer through how to secure those devices in an environment so that you can ensure that ports are closed, passwords are set, and it walks you through that. In 2012, we came out with Jet Advantage Security Manager, and I'm going to touch on that in a few minutes, but it's a compliance tool that helps you keep your devices as secure as possible. And then in 2015, we've got three key features that I'm going to touch on in my presentation. SureStart, whitelisting, and intrusion detection. We feel that these are critical technologies. These are firsts in the market, and I'm going to touch on those in a few minutes. So a lot of questions, I typically get questions about why do we need to worry about my printers? What's the risk with them? Well, printers are processing confidential information. They're processing confidential jobs. And if a printer is attacked, that data could potentially be exposed. What I've got here are 3 examples of attacks that have occurred on printers. The first one happened in 2011. It actually happened to HP devices. It was a Columbia University grad student that identified how to break into our devices by loading some code into those devices. These particular devices did not have code signing validation on them. HP responded to this particular attack by releasing 56 firmware versions to mitigate this risk and ensure that no one else can actually inject code into these devices. Now, the second example that I've got listed here is basically around the Chamber of Commerce attack that occurred in 2011. Essentially, the Chamber of Commerce was used as a beachhead for lobbying groups, and they attacked servers and PCs on their environment in the network. And this lobbyist group went through and cleansed their systems, their servers, their PCs, and lo and behold, they forgot about their printers. So months later, they found that basically both a printer and a thermostat were actually exfiltrating data out of the network. So this is essentially jobs going through these printers could be exfiltrated out on the network. The third example is a Canon device. This is kind of a funny one where hackers were running Doom on these Canon devices, and it's very similar to the first example we had in 2011. This happened in 2014. The Canon devices, they injected and essentially loaded Doom on these devices and showed how you could load malware into these devices as an example. And HP code signing would have mitigated that particular risk. So what makes the world's most secure printer? So we didn't arbitrarily come out with this statement. It's very critical that we identify what makes the world's most secure printer, and I'm going to touch on these. But what's really important too is there's a baseline of requirements that are on the left of this slide that highlight, gee, these are all the security baseline features that you must have in your devices. What really differentiates devices as the world's most secure printers are these features on the right that I'm going to touch on. The HP SureStart for BIOS protection, HP Secure Whitelisting, and then we've got the runtime intrusion detection. And these are device protection features that I'm going to touch on in a few minutes. And then the HP Security Manager, the Jet Advantage Security Manager, which ensures your devices are in compliance and can be as secure as possible. Now, this basically is showing the competitive comparison, and I'm not going to go through all of this, but it's to really highlight why we felt we were the world's most secure printer. We did a comparison with what the competitors had against these new features, and it kind of shows the red means that that particular feature is missing. The yellow means they may have partial support for that feature. And we've got the top 3 device protection features listed there, HP being the #1 vendor that has these features in our devices in fall of 15. We also highlight the investment protection for our HP Future Smart devices and the compliance tool that I'll talk about as well. And then lastly, we have the Print Security Advisory Services, which is a consulting offering that we just recently released. Now, one of the things that we like to talk about here is the life cycle of our device. So what this is actually showing is when the device boots up, what protections we have, and I'm going to walk through this in more detail because this is highlighting the 3 features we came out with in the fall. So the first thing you're going to do is you boot the device. Typically what happens is the first firmware to load when you boot the device is the BIOS. This is actually loading the hardware drivers. The protection we have around the BIOS load is called HP SureStart. This was actually HP Labs technology that we put into our devices in the fall. And this actually will validate that the BIOS is secure and has not been tampered with. If it has been tampered with, we can actually revert back to a golden copy, and this allows the device to recover from a potential attack. And we have an example. Saudi Aramco, which is one of the biggest oil refineries in the world, actually had a hacking attack occur several years back. They attacked the BIOS on these PCs. The master boot record was attacked. 30,000 PCs and servers were rendered unusable at that point in time. It required someone to actually walk to each device and physically load the BIOS as well as the operating system back onto these devices. HP SureStart would have prevented this type of attack from occurring. It would allow the actual recovery of the device back to that golden copy of the BIOS so that you could reduce the downtime of any device that becomes potentially attacked. The second feature we have is the whitelisting feature that essentially is loading authentic firmware onto these devices. Essentially, what we're trying to do with this whole process is ensure that we are running as secure code as possible on our devices. The whitelisting ensures that as you load code, you're iteratively ensuring that that code has not been tampered with and that it's HP authentic. We go through and we secure information, data at rest. We do firmware updates on our devices, and any firmware updates that are performed on our devices, we make sure that that code is signed by HP and has not been tampered with. And then the third feature that we came out with in the fall is runtime intrusion detection. This is an in-memory monitoring capability looking for any types of anomalies. Because if you look at this process, most of the time your device is up and running. Any type of a defect on an interface on any device can be used by a hacker as an attack point. We have examples. A buffer overflow on a particular device could be used as an attack vector. So that is what we're trying to prevent with this runtime intrusion detection. We can actually detect if malware is loaded onto the device and then go through this whole reboot process to bring that device back into a known good state and reduce the downtime for the customer. We also will, if there is any type of attack, we will actually highlight that to the customer in any type of a security and information and event management tool. They're called SIEM tools. That's like ArcSight or Splunk. And we send messages to those tools so that those can be highlighted and administrators can run forensics on those devices and identify what may have happened to cause that anomaly. All along the bottom, we've got Jet Advantage Security Manager ensuring that device remains in compliance with the policy you've set up. We have 3 features that we came out with in the fall: SureStart whitelisting and runtime intrusion detection. SureStart requires a hardware component, so that is offered on products from 2015 forward. The other 2 features Whitelisting and runtime intrusion detection we've actually taken back to our fleet since 2011. So products manufactured since 2011 have the ability to get the firmware upgrade for those two features, the whitelisting and runtime intrusion detection, and then products from 2015 forward will have the three features, which includes the Sure Start capability. One of the core pillars of our security strategy in ensuring our devices are as secure as possible is JetAdvantage Security Manager. This is an industry first. It's a policy-based tool that actually can go out and ensure your devices are in compliance with a policy that you can set up. I mentioned earlier about a NIST security checklist report. Basically, that's about 75 pages. Our competitors have like upwards of 120 plus pages for putting devices into compliance. This tool automates that whole process. It also gives the customer the ability to customize that policy. We have a default policy we come out with based on industry best practices and then our own expertise that we release, but you can customize that policy based on your needs. It's critical about this tool. We've got new features that have come out in spring 16, and specifically those three features I talked about, the firmware features that are device protection features, Sure Start whitelisting and intrusion detection. The tool will be able to tell you which devices have these features and which ones may be lacking that. And I also wanted to highlight another key part of this tool is around certificate management. This is critical, and a lot of customers have asked me, what's so important about having a certificate on your device? Basically, a certificate gives you the assurity that you're actually communicating with the device you think you are. And let me give you an example of this. We had a university in the Midwest where students broke into a printer, essentially, and they were able to redirect jobs that were destined for that printer, copy them, and then ultimately send them to the printer. But they were essentially doing a man-in-the-middle attack. The professors that were sending those tests to be printed to that printer thought they were going directly to the printer, but they weren't. They were being captured by the students so that they could see what the test was the next day. Anyway, a certificate on your printer would have prevented that particular type of attack, a man-in-the-middle attack, using secure channel as well as a print protocol that is secured. And that's why it's critical that you actually take advantage of Security Manager and ensure that your devices are in compliance.
You're devoting more resources than ever to maintaining the security of your data centers and network. But what about your printers? Since they're on the network, imaging and printing devices can be hacked or provide an entry point for malware and viruses. In fact, 64% of IT managers say their printers are likely infected with malware. Printers store user credentials, print jobs, and other sensitive information that can be vulnerable if not protected. And without central control, it's time-consuming for IT to keep your fleet secure. The job may seem daunting, but HP can help. HP offers the deepest level of printer security to help IT proactively protect the network and safeguard your devices, data, and documents. Built into our new enterprise printers, HP Sure Start protects the BIOS integrity at startup with the industry's first self-healing capabilities. Whitelisting protects device firmware, and runtime intrusion detection constantly guards against attacks. Encryption helps keep data secure on internal drives and in transit, even when printing from smartphones or tablets. With Pull Print solutions, print jobs are stored on the server or in the cloud. Users can then authenticate at any supported device and print. Simplify and strengthen security throughout the enterprise with the industry's most comprehensive print security solution, HP JetAdvantage Security Manager. It assesses and remediates device security settings to comply with established policies. Save IT time with Security Manager's automated processes, including fleet certificate management. To help you get started, HP Printing Security Advisory Services will work with your IT and security teams to develop a cohesive printing security strategy. HP's comprehensive security solutions are designed to work together to help reduce risk, improve compliance, and protect your network from end to end.
I'm going to talk to you a little bit about HP Jet Advantage Security Manager, which is a great policy tool that HP offers to allow you to increase the security compliance for your corporate fleet of printers. You can create one policy and roll it out to hundreds of devices, saving time and still having the capability to demonstrate compliance to any kind of a team, whether it be risk management, whether it be security, or print engineering. It is a very efficient tool. It's extremely lightweight, does not eat up a lot of network bandwidth, and gives you a lot of capability with regard to reporting. So let's go into that in a little bit more detail. This is a wall of text, and as we previously discussed, there are a tremendous number of settings on a printer, and some of those settings are not secure. We discussed Telnet and FTP and HTTP, and we showed a little bit about how those are being attacked by hackers. In an intelligent enterprise class HP multifunction printer, you have over 250 settings. And as an organization responsible for print, you have to be able to lock those down and reduce the threat vector and only have the settings that are really required open for your print environment. So how you do this and how you maintain that in an ongoing fashion for your print environment is really critical. And Security Manager can help you solve that challenge. So what Security Manager does, this is a very simple graphical display of what you can do with Security Manager. It allows you to create a policy. The policy tool is actually very intuitive. It allows you to, if you make certain settings, it naturally suggests other settings to go with that. It allows you to add devices, HP devices, into your fleet. It'll assess those devices. Assessment means it'll go compare that device's current settings versus your standard security policy. This is the big differentiator for HP. It remediates those settings. So if your device had FTP enabled for some reason and your policy said to disable that, HP Security Manager would just change that setting and leave all other settings on the device alone. It allows you to renew certificates. If you happen to have the stance where you want to push certificates to your devices and have that trusted relationship between the printer and other IT assets in your environment, such as a server, you can push a certificate, a unique certificate, down to a printer using Security Manager and improve the security stance of your fleet. A lot of customers have not taken this step because it's time intensive to do this, but it is a very good security policy that should be considered. And doing this with WebJet Admin, you can push certificates, but they're not unique. And it takes about 15 to 20 minutes per device to do it using WebJet Admin, which is a wonderful fleet management tool, but not necessarily the ideal tool for a security policy management. With Security Manager, you can do unique certificates with assigned CA or certificate authority, and you can do it one-to-many for a fleet in a matter of minutes. So it's a wonderful tool to improve the security stance of the fleet while also saving a tremendous amount of time to do that. And then the last but not least, and extremely critically important, is reviewing results. You can get reports. And you can get reports that compare the security stance of your fleet to your standard policy, and you can provide those reports to all the different organizations or folks responsible for security or compliance. A great example of this is you could relate this back if you happen to use an ISO 27001 framework for security. You could use these reports to demonstrate compliance to an ISO control stating we do in fact have a standard endpoint security policy and our printers meet that endpoint security policy. Another great feature of HP Security Manager is Instant On Security. So in an HP Enterprise class LaserJet, we have an announcement agent that you can turn on. This is a setting that looks for an instance of HP Security Manager in the environment. So when a printer comes new out of the box or out of a break-fix incident, if the announcement agent is turned on, that device will go look for an instance of HP Security Manager. And it will immediately remediate that device back to the security policy that's been provided in Security Manager. So that printer is wide open, coming new out of the box, or it's coming off of break-fix where it's been reset. And Instant On will immediately take that and apply the standard security settings to that device, and then you'll be able to capture that and report that out. That device would also be in the normal cadence to be reviewed on your normal scheduled remediation. So let's say you run those at midnight every Tuesday or whatever the right cadence might be, but it would be instantly secure and then it would fall into your normal cadence of reviews. So Security Manager is extremely powerful for customers that have to demonstrate that devices are secure, that the data is secure, and that they need to show that in a meaningful way. Healthcare is a prime example. Healthcare customers want to know that any patient data is secure and that they're not putting any patient data at risk. So Instant On is a great tool to say, hey, my print fleet is secure to our policy, and whether it's coming off a break fix or new in the box, I can immediately remediate my device. So let's walk through a use case with HP JetAdvantage Security Manager. HP has a MPS relationship, Managed Print Services relationship, with a large banking customer with a very vast fleet, 30,000 devices. In that relationship, HP is responsible for the security stance of the print fleet. HP was working with one person dedicating 4 hours per day using 12 WebJet admin servers that are continuously pinging the network with traffic to check the security settings of those printers. So not a very good success rate, with a lot of effort, a lot of traffic, a lot of things going back and forth. We came in with Security Manager on 2 servers. In 3 hours, we were able to assess 10,500 devices and remediate those devices to a 97% compliance, which is a fantastic capability in a really short period of time. The WebJet admin servers do not go away. They're still part of the print environment for fleet administration, but the level of effort from an individual spending 4 hours and the continuous network traffic that WebJet admin offers are reduced, and you have 2 servers satisfying 10,500 devices and a really high compliance to the security policy. So a fantastic use case of efficiently administering policies to a large print fleet with HP Security Manager. This next slide is a sample of some of the reports that you can get out of Security Manager. On the left-hand side, you have what we call an executive view, a very simple graphical view that shows what's good, what's medium risk, and what is high risk. Security Manager allows you to adjust the settings to your threat threshold, so you can make them high, medium, or low based on your print security stance. But this gives a very quick snapshot that a lot of management or executives like to view, and you can show really quickly where your print fleet is at. The right-hand side is an actual screenshot from the application itself, and it's showing all the different settings, and the green check marks are it is passed, the red check marks are the higher risk, the yellow check marks are the medium risk. So a really quick, intuitive graphical display. So a really easy way to assess a print fleet and understand what's going on. Next, I'd like to go into print management. So print management has multiple areas. You have authentication. That's the concept that I walk up to a device, I scan a badge, it beeps, and I'm authenticated. It's checking my credentials against Active Directory, and it's saying that I am a known person in that environment. Authentication is a key security mechanism that you want to have to establish who's using the devices. From that, you can do a lot of different things. You can understand who's printing what. You can securely print documents. You can encrypt those documents while they're being printed. You can understand who's printing in duplex and mono and color. And a lot of information can be had out of a print management solution. So let's walk through a quick scenario. Secure pull printing, which is also known as follow me print or location-based print, is instead of going file print and having the job go directly to one printer, Secure pull print actually sends that job to a server. And when it's going from the client to the server, it's encrypted. It stays encrypted on the server at rest. The user walks up and authenticates to any enabled device, and at that point the job comes down to that device and can be printed. Secure pull printing offers authentication for who's using the device. It encrypts the print job traffic, securing it, and it also saves on prints, because if people don't get up and authenticate, that job never prints. So you're increasing security and potentially saving some money, because people do not always go pick up their jobs. Everybody's seen output sitting in the output bin. You can authenticate with a badge, you can authenticate with a PIN code, you can also authenticate with a mobile phone if you choose to. The next area that I wanted to cover is job accounting. This is a powerful tool for 2 different reasons. Job accounting allows you to understand who's printing what at the user level. You capture user level print data, and it allows you to understand if there's abusive printing in an environment. It helps you understand if there's sensitive or intellectual property being printed that should not be, and it allows you to, if you choose to, send back reports to lines of business asking them to pay for their print. Job accounting is a wonderful tool for audit purposes in a forensic understanding of who printed what, and it's a great tool to help curb user behavior in a print environment. This is a quick use case on Secure pull print. This is a large financial services institution that had hundreds of print queues in their environment, actually 10,000 plus print queues. They had a struggle in managing all those queues and managing drivers. They had an issue with documents being left in the output bin, documents not encrypted, and a lot of just wasted output. They were running 7 servers for those 10,000 print queues and really just struggling with the management of their environment. After implementing a print management solution, they have one single queue that all their users work with, so that simplifies the end user's interaction with printing. They're running 2 servers for over 2,000 devices, so they're effectively managing their print traffic through 2 servers. All the print traffic is encrypted now. They don't have unclaimed jobs sitting in the output bin, and they are seeing a reduction in their print environment based on implementing Secure Pull Print. They've also implemented job accounting, so there's more than just Secure Pull Print, but the key metrics here are reducing the number of servers to manage the print environment and to encrypt and reduce the number of unclaimed print jobs. So next I'd like to get into security advisory services. This is an offering that HP and our partners provide that allow us to come in and consult with you and understand your needs around your print environment, what you're doing today, the applications you're printing from, and the infrastructure supporting that print environment, and work with you to assess that and come up with a plan to secure that. We've already talked through JetAdvantage Security Manager, a wonderful tool for policy compliance. We can consult with you and come up with a comprehensive print security plan that reduces the unsecure protocols, that puts good security practices and good change management into your print environment, and then come up with solution recommendations. As we discover what you're doing and how you're doing it, we can help you with potentially implementing like a Secure Pull Print solution. Your managed print service provider can be your consultant to deploy these security solutions for your environment, not just one time, but ongoing. And your provider can help you by coming back in and consulting with you in an ongoing fashion to ensure your print fleet is secure for the long haul.
This is not a device, it's a workshop. It's workflow. It's a working connection to everything connected. It's your network at work. This is not a printer. It's an on-ramp. It's an off-ramp. It's an intersection where your hardware meets your software meets your people. It's an entry point into your network. This is not what you think it is. It's an attack. It's how a small breach blows a big hole in your bottom line from the last place you look. At HP, we understand that your network is the beating heart of your business, that your data is its lifeblood, that your IT environment is only as strong as its weakest link. And we know that protecting every network entry point is paramount. That's why only HP defends your network with the deepest device, data, and document security built right into the world's most secure printers and PCs. HP, defend your network with the world's most secure printers.
My key points are, number 1, huge anxiety for our customers, right? And that's a growing concern around cybersecurity in general, and then printer security very specifically. We've got great products on the 500 series that have fantastic feature sets and absolutely best-in-class products. We've got great security features actually built on top of the 500 products, which go back in our install base. And we think that after today, we're launching here in Europe as well as in Asia Pacific and in the US. I think after today, what we hope to happen is that a lot more printer companies will actually step up and start talking about security, because I truly believe it is an industry-wide problem, and it's a problem that HP wants to solve, and I think our customers absolutely need us to step up and solve. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you.